The winter school road trip was supposed to be forgettable. That was the selling point. 2 buses, 1 overnight drive, and a history competition 3 counties away that no one expected to win. Snow had started falling before we even left the parking lot, thin and dry, the kind that squeaks under boots and makes everything look quieter than it should. I took a window seat near the back, hoodie pulled tight, watching our town lights fade into nothing. By midnight, most people were asleep. The bus heater hummed unevenly, blowing hot air that smelled faintly of dust. Outside, the road narrowed from highway to something older, darker. Tall trees crowded close, their branches bent under snow, forming a tunnel that swallowed our headlights. My phone lost signal not long after that, though no one seemed bothered. Teachers talked quietly up front. The driver didn't. Around 1 in the morning, the bus slowed. Not a full stop, just enough to wake me. I looked up and saw someone standing on the shoulder ahead, half lit by the headlights. He wore a heavy coat and raised one gloved hand, palm out. Not waving. Stopping. The bus hissed as the brakes engaged. A teacher stood to ask if everything was okay, but before the door could open, the man leaned close to the window by the driver. I couldn't hear him clearly, only fragments through the glass. "Don't stop again, road's wrong, turn back if you can." The driver frowned, shook his head, and said something I couldn't hear. The man stepped back, his face pale and tight, then pointed down the road ahead like it offended him. He lowered his hand, took 3 steps into the trees, and vanished. No footprints. No sound. The bus rolled forward again, slower now. Murmurs spread. Someone joked it was a prank. Someone else laughed too loudly. I stayed quiet, staring at the spot where the man had been. The trees looked unchanged, smooth with snow, like no one had disturbed them in years. 10 minutes later, I noticed the first headlights behind us. They stayed far back, just 2 white dots cresting hills we'd already passed. When the bus sped up, they matched it. When we slowed for a turn, they slowed too. I counted the minutes by the heater's clicking rhythm. 20 passed. Then 30. The road sign I glimpsed said we were on a county route I'd never heard of. More lights appeared. Sometimes just one set. Sometimes none. Then they'd be back again, closer than before. Every time I tried to get a clear look, the bus rounded a bend and the road swallowed them. I leaned into the aisle and whispered to the girl across from me, asking if she saw them too. She nodded, eyes wide, then looked away like acknowledging it made things worse. We didn't stop again. Even when the road turned rough. Even when the bus shuddered and the driver muttered under his breath. I remembered the man's warning and wondered how far back, turn back, had really been. It was close to 3 in the morning when the bus finally did stop. Not because we wanted to, but because the road forced it. Ahead of us, orange cones blocked the way, half buried in snow. A temporary sign leaned crookedly to one side. Road closed. No date. No explanation. Just darkness beyond. The headlights behind us disappeared the moment we stopped. Teachers gathered up front, whispering urgently. The driver rubbed his face with both hands, then picked up the radio. Static answered him. He tried again. Nothing. Outside, the snow had thickened, falling heavy and silent, muffling the world until the bus felt sealed off from everything else. That's when I noticed the cameras. At first, I thought they were reflectors in the trees. Small, round glints catching the light. But they were too steady. Too deliberate. I counted 4 on my side alone, spaced evenly between trunks, all angled toward the bus. Someone else saw them too and hissed under their breath. A teacher told us to stay seated. The driver decided to turn around. Backing up took time. Too much time. The road was narrow, and every adjustment felt like a mistake. My heart pounded as the bus crept backward, tires crunching over packed snow. I watched the trees slide past the windows, searching for movement. The cameras, if that's what they were, never blinked. Halfway through the turn, the bus lights flickered. Just once. But it was enough to send a ripple of panic through the seats. Someone started crying softly. The driver slammed his palm against the dashboard and the lights steadied. When we finally faced the opposite direction, the road behind us looked different. Wider. Smoother. Like it hadn't been there before. We drove. No one spoke. The rest of the night passed in fragments. A faded gas station that appeared out of nowhere. A ranger checkpoint that looked abandoned but had fresh tire tracks. A town sign with the name scratched out. As dawn crept in, the snow thinned, and with it, the tension, just enough for exhaustion to take over. We arrived at our destination late. No one mentioned the road. Teachers blamed weather delays. The competition went on like normal. But when we boarded the bus to go home, a different driver waited. Different route too. Longer, he said. Safer. I asked one of the teachers what happened that night. She hesitated, then told me not to dwell on it. Some roads, she said, aren't meant to be used twice. Years later, I looked for that route on maps. It doesn't exist. Neither does the road closure, the warning, or the cameras in the trees. But every winter, when snow quiets the world just enough, I remember the way we were watched, and how close we came to stopping where we shouldn't have. I thought a solo winter road trip would be a welcome escape, a few days alone driving through the snowy mountains of eastern Kentucky, just me, my car, and empty backroads. The highways were crowded with last-minute holiday travelers, so I decided to take the long way, a winding network of rural roads that cut through the hills and hollows. My phone barely had service, the map was mostly offline, and that suited me fine. I liked the isolation, the way the snow made everything feel softer and quieter, like the world had been paused. Around late afternoon, I turned onto a narrow gravel road that split off from the main route. The trees closed in quickly, their branches heavy with frost. Up ahead, I noticed something strange. 2 steel guardrails, bent and twisted, forming an arch over the road. The bolts were still embedded in chunks of concrete, asphalt cracked around them. Whoever did this had used incredible force. I parked a few feet back and got out, the cold biting through my jacket. No signs of a crash, no markings, nothing but the twisted metal and the falling snow. I brushed it off, thinking maybe it was some kind of local art project, then noticed a small wooden sign nailed crookedly to a nearby pine, no tracks after dusk. The lettering was worn, uneven, obviously hand-carved. My stomach tightened. It looked like a joke, but something about it felt off. I backed my car into a clearing just beyond the sign, turned the heater on, and tried to relax. I told myself I'd just sleep in the car for the night, and be on my way in the morning. Hours passed. The temperature inside the car dropped far faster than I expected. My fingers went numb as I zipped myself into the sleeping bag. I had been dozing lightly when I heard it, a slow, scraping sound coming from the road. Not footsteps, not tires, but the heavy drag of something across gravel. My heart jumped, and I froze. Every few minutes it moved closer, a sound that shouldn't exist in the empty woods. Then, a strange high-pitched noise followed, like a reverse siren, fleeting and playful. My body refused to move. I gripped the flashlight in my lap as if it could defend me. I didn't sleep again that night. The dragging sounds continued at irregular intervals, never leaving the same trail, always closer, always patient. I didn't dare look out the windows. By the time dawn arrived, the snow had fallen thick and pristine. I unzipped my sleeping bag and cautiously cracked the door open, expecting to see nothing. Instead, a single line of disturbed snow led directly to the passenger door, no footprints, no drag marks away, just the one line that stopped abruptly. I swallowed hard. Whatever had been out there had come right to me. Panic fueled my movements. I grabbed my coat and started walking down the road, trying to keep the shaking in my legs under control. The snow was deep, but I didn't care. I just wanted distance. About half a mile later, I stumbled across the same bent guardrails I'd seen the night before, but now they were worse. They'd been dragged 20 feet off the road and nailed into a tree trunk. Hanging from the arch was a pair of rubber floor mats, mine. My stomach dropped. Someone, or something, had been watching me, tracking me the entire night. I ran without thinking, lungs burning, until I reached a point where my phone finally had a signal. I called the nearest tow company and barely formed words. The man who answered didn't question me. He knew the road I'd taken, even asked about a place called Dead Ridge, like he had seen this before. Within 30 minutes he arrived, a burly man with a heavy coat and ice in his beard. He didn't ask questions, just towed my car out, got it started, and waved me off without accepting payment. The relief I felt was fleeting. I couldn't explain the drag marks, the twisted guardrails, or the sign warning me not to make tracks after dark. For weeks, I tried to convince myself it was some local prank or backwoods art project. But the memory clung to me like frost on glass. Even months later, I would replay the scraping sounds in my head, that eerie reverse siren, the line in the snow leading straight to my door. 3 years later, I was driving again, this time with Karis, my ex-girlfriend, on a casual winter trip through the Blue Ridge. We stopped at a scenic overlook, and as I stepped out, my eyes caught something among the trees. The bent guardrails were there again, chained and dragged into a tree, exactly as before. I didn't say a word to Karis. I didn't point, didn't warn her. I just got back in the car and drove until the snow disappeared, my stomach tight with the same fear I had felt years earlier. I still think about that night, about the sounds in the dark, about being watched in the woods with no one else around. I've never gone back to that road. I tell myself the forest holds its secrets, that some places are better left alone. But every winter, when snow falls quiet and thick, I can't shake the feeling that the line in the snow, the drag marks, and those bent guardrails are waiting for the next traveler, and that some unseen presence is still out there, patient, watching, and waiting for someone to ignore the warning. My wife, Emma, and I planned our winter honeymoon to be simple. No resorts, no crowds, just long drives through the snowy hills of West Virginia and a quiet cabin waiting at the end. We wanted silence, space, and a break from city life. At first, that's exactly what we got. The highways were clear, the snowfall light and steady. The radio hummed softly, and Emma slept beside me, wrapped in a blanket. I followed the GPS confidently until dusk settled into the valleys and the roads narrowed. Somewhere near the state line, I missed a turn. The GPS recalculated and guided us onto a smaller, unplowed road. I hesitated, but turning back meant losing over an hour. I kept driving. The road tightened quickly, winding between dense trees that blocked out any remaining daylight. Houses, or cabins, appeared sporadically. All of them looked the same. Same size. Same shape. Same dark windows. Each one had a faded wreath nailed to the door. After passing the 5th cabin, something felt wrong. In my rearview mirror, I noticed the cabin behind us didn't look the same anymore. The wreath was gone. I slowed, then stopped entirely. Snow fell thick and quiet around us. I stepped out and walked back to check. The door was bare. Just an old nail and disturbed snow leading toward the woods. No footprints, no clear direction. My chest tightened. I scanned the tree line, suddenly aware of how isolated we were. I hurried back to the car. Emma was awake now. We continued driving, but the unease grew. The same cabins kept appearing, spaced unevenly. Some had wreaths. Some didn't. My GPS insisted we were moving forward, yet the scenery felt repetitive, like we were looping without realizing it. Then my phone rang. Not my ringtone. The screen flickered and displayed, unknown network. I ignored it. A moment later, a text came through. Tell them you arrived safely. I didn't respond. That's when I noticed headlights behind us. They stayed far back but matched every move we made. When I slowed, they slowed. When I sped up, they kept their distance. No passing. No turning off. Just following. The car lights flickered once, then stabilized. Emma squeezed my arm, whispering that something felt wrong. I agreed, but couldn't explain why. We weren't being chased aggressively. It felt controlled. Like we were being monitored. A soft tap struck the rear of the car. Not a collision. Not an accident. Intentional. I didn't stop. I pushed forward, gripping the wheel as branches scraped the sides of the car. The road twisted sharply, then suddenly widened into a gravel turnout. A rusted gate hung open beside a broken sign, unreadable under snow. The moment we passed it, everything changed. Signal returned. Dashboard lights stabilized. The headlights behind us disappeared. Minutes later, we reached the highway. Real traffic, real signs, real noise. Emma exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. We never talked about it that night. Days later, curiosity got the better of me. I searched for that road. It didn't appear on any updated map. County records listed the area as restricted land due to unresolved property disputes and ongoing investigations. No details. No photos. Just warnings. We finished our honeymoon, but the peace never fully returned. Sometimes I still think about those cabins, the identical doors, the rearranged details, the headlights that followed without urgency. I don't believe it was random. I believe we drove into an area where we weren't supposed to be, where someone was conducting operations they didn't want observed. And instead of stopping us openly, they watched, tested, guided us out once they were sure we wouldn't interfere. Every winter, when snow falls heavy and roads grow quiet, I remember that night. And I'm careful which turns I take.